Welcome to a profound exploration of human behavior, a journey into the subtle yet monumental forces that shape our lives. For too long, we have been told that massive success requires massive action, that willpower is the ultimate currency of change, and that our failures are simply a lack of motivation. But what if the truth were far simpler, more elegant, and infinitely more powerful? What if the secret to remarkable results lay not in grand, sweeping gestures, but in the relentless accumulation of tiny, almost imperceptible improvements? This is the revolutionary insight at the heart of James Clear's seminal work, Atomic Habits. Prepare to dismantle old beliefs and construct a new understanding of how true, lasting change is forged, one atomic habit at a time. At the very outset of our journey into atomic habits, we must confront a fundamental truth: the astonishing power of compounding gains. Imagine improving by just 1% every single day. It sounds insignificant, doesn't it? A mere fraction of progress. Yet, if you can manage to get 1% better each day for an entire year, the mathematics of compounding reveal a staggering reality. You will end up 37 times better by the time the year concludes. Conversely, a daily decline of just 1% will see you regress almost entirely to zero. This isn't just a mathematical curiosity. It's a profound principle of human potential. Success is not a single, monumental event. It is the product of daily habits, the compound interest of self-improvement. It is the small choices, repeated consistently, that determine the trajectory of your life. This leads us to a critical distinction that James Clear champions: the difference between systems and goals. Most of us are conditioned to set goals. We declare our aspirations. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to write a best-selling book. I want to build a successful business. Goals are about the results you want to achieve. And while they can provide direction, they often fall short as a reliable mechanism for change. Why? Because you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Systems, by contrast, are about the processes that lead to those results. If you're struggling to change your habits, the problem isn't you. It's your system. A flawed system will inevitably lead to repeated failures, regardless of your willpower or desire. True long-term thinking is goal-less thinking. It is about the continuous refinement and improvement of your underlying processes. But perhaps the most transformative concept in Clear's philosophy is that of identity-based habits. We often approach habit change by focusing on outcomes. I want to run a marathon. Or we focus on processes. I will run 3 times a week. While these have their place, they are often insufficient for lasting transformation. Clear argues that true, sustainable habit change is, at its deepest layer, identity change. There are 3 layers of behavior change: outcomes, what you get; processes, what you do; and identity, what you believe. Most people start with outcomes. They say, I want to be thin. But a more powerful approach is to start with identity. I want to be a healthy person. Your current behaviors are simply a reflection of your current identity. What you do now is a mirror image of the type of person you believe yourself to be. To change your behavior for good, you need to start believing new things about yourself. You need to build habits that reinforce the identity you wish to embody. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. The goal is not to read a book. The goal is to become a reader. The goal is not to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner. When your habits are aligned with your desired identity, change becomes not a chore, but an affirmation of who you are. Underpinning all of this is the 4-step habit loop, a neurological feedback loop that governs every habit, good or bad. Understanding this loop is the key to unlocking the mechanics of behavior change. Consists of 1. The cue. This is the trigger, the piece of information that predicts a reward. It's the subtle signal that tells your brain to initiate a behavior. It could be the sight of a coffee shop, the sound of a notification, or the feeling of boredom. 2. The craving. This is the motivational force behind every habit. It's the desire for a change in state, the longing for the reward the cue promises. You don't crave the habit itself, but the change in state it delivers, the feeling of satisfaction, the reduction of stress, the surge of energy. 3. The response. This is the actual habit you perform, the physical or mental action you take. Could be drinking coffee, checking your phone, or opening a social media app. The response must be easy enough to perform. 4. The reward. This is the end goal of every habit. It's the satisfying feeling that fulfills the craving and teaches your brain that this particular action is worth remembering and repeating in the future. The reward closes the loop, reinforcing the connection between the cue and the response. By understanding these 4 steps, cue, craving, response, reward, we gain the power to deconstruct our existing habits and engineer new ones. This fundamental loop is the bedrock upon which the 4 laws of behavior change are built, providing a practical framework for making good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. With the foundational understanding of compounding, systems, identity, and the habit loop firmly in place, James Clear distills the science of behavior change into 4 remarkably simple yet profoundly effective laws. These are not mere suggestions. They are principles that, when applied, can systematically engineer your environment and your actions to foster good habits and dismantle bad ones. For each law, we will explore its positive application, its inverse for breaking undesirable behaviors, the underlying psychological shift it demands, and a concrete, real-world example that brings the theory to life. The first law of behavior change is to make it obvious. Its inverse for breaking bad habits is to make it invisible. This law speaks to the undeniable truth that our environment is a powerful, often unseen, architect of our behavior. Good habits thrive in environments where their cues are prominent and unavoidable. Bad habits wither when their cues are hidden or removed. The mindset shift here is centered on environment design, sometimes referred to as choice architecture. We often believe that our choices are purely a product of our willpower, but in reality, our environment exerts an enormous, subconscious influence. Rather than relying on heroic levels of self-control, the proactive approach is to design your surroundings to make desired actions effortless and undesired actions difficult. This means strategically placing cues for good habits directly in your path and actively removing or obscuring cues for bad habits. The goal is to make the cues for your good habits so visible that you cannot ignore them, and the cues for your bad habits so invisible that you forget they exist. Consider the power of implementation intentions, which involves stating your intention to act at a specific time and place. I will behavior at time in location. This simple act of planning makes the cue for your habit explicit. Similarly, habit stacking leverages existing habits as cues for new ones. After current habit, I will new habit. By linking a new desired behavior to an established routine, you make the cue for the new habit obvious and integrate it seamlessly into your day. Let's look at the groundbreaking work of Dr. Thorndike, a physician at Massachusetts General Hospital. She wanted to improve the eating habits of hospital staff and visitors, not by lecturing them or restricting choices, but by subtly altering their environment. Her team redesigned the hospital cafeteria's layout, focusing on what Clear calls choice architecture. Instead of placing sugary sodas and unhealthy snacks prominently, they moved bottled water to every refrigerator and placed it next to the cash registers. Fruit baskets were placed at every food station. Sugary drinks were relegated to less accessible areas. The results were astonishing. Without a single person being told what to eat or drink, over 6 months, soda sales plummeted by 11.4%. while bottled water sales increased by 25.8%. Sales of French fries decreased by 6.9%, and apples increased by 10.6%. This wasn't a triumph of willpower. It was a triumph of environment design. Dr. Thorndike made the healthy choice the obvious choice, demonstrating that when the cues for good habits are made prominent, and the cues for bad habits are made invisible, human behavior shifts predictably and powerfully. The environment, not just individual discipline, becomes the silent force guiding us toward better decisions. The second law of behavior change is to make it attractive. Its inverse for breaking bad habits is to make it unattractive. This law taps into the fundamental human drive for pleasure and reward. We are far more likely to repeat behaviors that are enjoyable and appealing, and to avoid those that are unpleasant or unappealing. The mindset shift here revolves around understanding and leveraging dopamine loops. Dopamine is not just about pleasure. It's about the anticipation of pleasure. It's the craving, the desire that drives us to act. When we make a habit attractive, we increase the dopamine released in anticipation of the reward, making us more likely to initiate the behavior. This law suggests that we can hack our motivation by associating good habits with positive feelings and bad habits with negative ones. A powerful tactic for making habits attractive is temptation bundling. This strategy involves pairing an action you want to do with an action you need to do. By linking a high-desire activity with a low-desire activity, you make the latter more appealing. For example, you might tell yourself, "I will only watch my favorite TV show while I am exercising on the stationary bike." The craving for entertainment then becomes a powerful cue to engage in the desired habit of exercise. Another crucial aspect is to join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. We are social creatures, and our habits are deeply influenced by the people around us. If you want to get fit, join a running club. If you want to read more, join a book club. When your desired behavior is the norm within your social circle, it becomes not just attractive but expected, and thus significantly easier to maintain. Consider the ingenious approach of Ronan Byrne, an engineering student who struggled with exercising. He knew he needed to work out, but he wanted to watch Netflix. So, he engineered a solution. He hacked his stationary bike so that Netflix would only play if he was pedaling at a certain speed. If he slowed down, Netflix would pause. This is a perfect illustration of temptation bundling in action. Byrne successfully linked an action he needed to do, exercise, with an action he wanted to do, watch Netflix. The immense attractiveness of his favorite shows became the irresistible force pulling him onto the bike. He didn't need willpower. He needed a system that made the desired behavior inherently attractive. By making the act of exercising the gateway to a highly desired reward, Byrne transformed a chore into an anticipated pleasure, demonstrating the profound impact of making good habits attractive. The third law of behavior change is to make it easy. Its inverse for breaking bad habits is to make it difficult. This law is founded on the principle of least effort. Human beings are naturally inclined to follow the path of least resistance. The easier a habit is to perform, the more likely we are to do it. The harder it is, the less likely. The mindset shift here is about reducing friction and mastering the art of showing up. We often overestimate the importance of motivation and underestimate the importance of friction. The secret to self-control is not willpower, but rather making the desired action so easy that you can't not do it. This means optimizing your environment to remove obstacles and streamline the process of performing good habits, while simultaneously adding friction to bad habits. A powerful strategy for making habits easy is the 2-minute rule. This rule states that when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. The idea is to make the entry point to your habit incredibly small and manageable. Read nightly becomes read one page. Do 30 minutes of yoga becomes take out my yoga mat. The goal is not to achieve the full habit, but to master the art of showing up. Once you start, the momentum often carries you further. The 2-minute rule is about standardizing the beginning of a new behavior, making it so easy that consistency becomes almost guaranteed. Consider the case of a professional who wanted to establish a consistent exercise routine but struggled with motivation after long workdays. Their initial goal was to complete a full 45-minute workout, which felt daunting. Applying the 2-minute rule, they redefined their habit. Every evening, I will put on my workout clothes. This was the only commitment. There was no pressure to actually exercise, just to put on the clothes. The friction was dramatically reduced. Most evenings, after putting on their workout clothes, they found themselves with enough momentum to do a short 10-minute workout. On days they were truly exhausted, they simply put on the clothes and then took them off, still counting it as a win because they had adhered to their 2-minute rule. Over time, this tiny, easy habit built consistency. The act of putting on the clothes became a powerful cue, and the reduced friction made the subsequent exercise feel less like a monumental task and more like a natural progression. This individual learned that by making the start of a habit incredibly easy, they could overcome procrastination and build a robust, long-term exercise routine, proving that consistency trumps intensity, especially in the early stages of habit formation. The fourth law of behavior change is to make it satisfying. Its inverse for breaking bad habits is to make it unsatisfying. This law is rooted in the fundamental principle that what is immediately rewarded is repeated, and what is immediately punished is avoided. Our brains are wired for instant gratification. While the long-term rewards of good habits are often delayed, we can engineer immediate satisfaction to reinforce desired behaviors. The mindset shift here is about understanding the power of immediate reinforcement and the importance of habit tracking. The challenge with many good habits is that their rewards are in the distant future. Eating a healthy meal today doesn't immediately make you thin. Saving money today doesn't immediately make you rich. Conversely, bad habits often provide immediate gratification, even if their long-term consequences are negative. To bridge this gap, we need to find ways to make good habits immediately satisfying. Habit tracking is a powerful tool for this. It provides visual proof of your progress, which is inherently satisfying. Each checkmark on a calendar, each completed entry in a journal, is a small, immediate reward that reinforces the identity of someone who is consistent. It creates a visual cue that reminds you of your streak and motivates you not to break it. The simple rule of habit tracking is never miss twice. One slip-up is an accident. Two is the beginning of a new bad habit. Habit tracking also creates a subtle form of accountability, making the consequences of an action more obvious. For breaking bad habits, the inverse is crucial. Make them immediately unsatisfying. This often involves creating immediate, visible costs for undesirable behaviors. This could be a public commitment, a financial penalty, or a partnership with an accountability buddy who calls you out when you slip. Let's turn to the story of Trent Dursmid, a stockbroker in the early 1990s who used a simple, yet profoundly effective, habit tracking system to skyrocket his sales. Dursmid understood that making sales calls was crucial for his success, but it was often a tedious and unrewarding task in the short term. To make the habit satisfying, he devised what James Clear calls the paperclip strategy. Each morning, Dursmid would start with 2 jars on his desk. One jar contained 120 paper clips. The other was empty. His rule was simple. Every time he completed a sales call, he would move 1 paper clip from the full jar to the empty one. This seemingly trivial act provided immediate, tangible feedback. Each moved paper clip was a small, visible win, a mini celebration of progress. It created a satisfying visual representation of his effort and built a powerful streak. He wasn't just making calls. He was accumulating paper clips, and each clip was a vote for the identity of a successful, diligent stockbroker. Within 18 months, Dursmid went from making 0 sales calls to completing 120 calls every single day. This simple habit tracking system transformed him into one of the top-performing stockbrokers in his firm. The paperclip strategy demonstrates that by making the abstract, long-term reward of success into an immediate, satisfying, and visible metric, we can powerfully reinforce the habits that drive us toward our goals. It's a testament to the idea that what gets measured, gets managed, and what gets immediately rewarded gets repeated. Beyond the foundational 4 laws, James Clear offers advanced tactics that further refine our ability to master our habits and, by extension, our lives. One such powerful concept is the Goldilocks rule. This rule states that humans experience peak motivation when working on tasks that are right on the edge of their current abilities. Not too hard, not too easy, but just right. If a task is too easy, we become bored. If it's too hard, we become discouraged. The sweet spot for motivation lies in challenges that are difficult enough to be engaging, but achievable enough to provide a sense of progress and competence. This is why incremental improvements are so vital. They keep us perpetually in that optimal zone of challenge, fueling our desire to continue and grow. To stay motivated for the long run, we must continuously seek out challenges that are just beyond our current capabilities, ensuring a steady stream of small victories that affirm our progress. However, even good habits can have a downside: the risk of complacency. Once a habit becomes automatic, once we achieve a certain level of mastery, there's a natural tendency to stop paying attention, to stop pushing for improvement. The very efficiency of a habit can lead to stagnation. Clear warns against this, emphasizing that true mastery is not about reaching a destination, but about a continuous process of refinement. To counteract complacency, we must periodically engage in deliberate practice, actively seeking out weaknesses, experimenting with new approaches, and constantly reviewing our performance. This might involve setting new, slightly more challenging goals, seeking feedback, or simply reflecting on how we can improve our established routines. The goal is to maintain a healthy tension between consistency and continuous improvement, ensuring that our habits serve as a foundation for growth, not a ceiling. We conclude our exploration of atomic habits with a powerful core insight. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. They are the tiny, fundamental units, the atoms, that construct the towering edifice of our lives. Your life today is, in large part, a sum of your habits. Your identity is a reflection of your habits. Your future is being built one atomic habit at a time in this very moment. James Clear has provided us with not just a philosophy, but a practical, actionable blueprint for designing a life of purpose and achievement. By understanding the subtle power of 1% improvements, by prioritizing systems over goals, by embracing identity-based habits, and by mastering the 4 laws of behavior change, make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying, we gain an unprecedented level of control over our destiny. The journey to remarkable results begins not with a revolution, but with an evolution, a series of small, deliberate choices that, when compounded over time, create a life far beyond what we might have imagined. The choice is yours, to be a passive recipient of your habits, or to become the architect of your atomic future. The power resides in the smallest of actions, repeated daily. Thank you for joining us on this transformative masterclass. Embrace your atomic habits and unlock your extraordinary potential.